I didn't expect the first night to break my heart. The wind howled through the empty lot, rattling the neon sign that buzzed above the gas station. It was the kind of night that slipped under your coat and sank straight to the bone. As I pushed open the glass door, the smell of burnt coffee and stale cigarettes hit me. My name tag said John, but that wasn't who I really was. I was Jonathan Miller, CEO of this chain of gas stations. I'd built it from the ground up, or so I liked to tell myself. But reports only showed numbers, not people. I wanted to see what those numbers didn't say. So, here I was, undercover on the night shift. What I didn't expect was her. Under the cold flickering lights, a young woman was curled up on the sticky tile floor, her head resting on a tattered backpack. Her uniform was the same as mine, except she wasn't an executive playing pretend. She was sleeping under the counter, like it was the only place she belonged. I froze. Who was she? Why was she here? A million questions raced through my mind, but only one mattered. What had happened to this girl that led her to sleep on the floor of a gas station? As she stirred awake, her tired eyes met mine. I knew this night was going to be different. I thought I was here to watch, to judge, but by sunrise, I'd be the one learning a lesson I'd never forget. They say you can't know a man until you've walked a mile in his shoes. That was my excuse. Anyway, the truth was simpler. I didn't trust the reports. I didn't trust the numbers, the neat little charts, the polished managers who always had a smile and a spin. I wanted to know if the rumors I'd been hearing were true. Whispers about employees sleeping on shift, about corners cut and hearts left behind. So I left my office in the city, traded my suit for a work shirt, and drove 2 hours out here, to this lonely gas station on the edge of a nowhere town. It wasn't much to look at. 2 pumps that rattled in the wind, a flickering sign that read, "Open 24 hours." Though from the looks of it, not much happened past midnight. The parking lot was cracked and lined with weeds. The windows were smudged with fingerprints. And the bell above the door had a hesitant jingle, like it was too tired to sing. I parked my truck, turned off my phone. No more emails. No more conference calls. Just me and a name tag that said John. Inside, the store was empty, except for the hum of refrigerators and the buzz of a fly trapped behind the counter glass. Rows of snacks and dusty coffee machines. This was America's after-hours heartbeat, the place where truckers pulled in to rest, where lonely souls bought gas station sandwiches, where the night was a long, slow exhale. I'd chosen this station for a reason. It was one of our worst performers, at least on paper. But paper never told the whole story. I needed to see it for myself. The manager who usually ran the night shift, Dave, was out tonight. That meant I was paired with a woman named Annie. All I had was a name, an age, and a tired photo in the HR file. Nothing that told me who she really was. I took a deep breath, adjusting my cheap uniform. The fluorescent lights made everything look tired. Even me. I felt the weight of it, all the responsibility, the fear of what I might find. But I had to know. I wasn't just here to play undercover boss. I was here because I couldn't live with not knowing anymore. The door swung shut behind me with a soft clink of the bell. She looked up from where she was kneeling, stacking plastic cups next to the coffee machine. Her hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail, a few strands escaping to frame her face. She wore the same uniform as my blue shirt, name tag pinned crookedly but on her. It looked lived in, like it had seen too many nights like this. "Hey there," she said. her voice soft, almost too tired to rise above a whisper. First night. I nodded, suddenly feeling like a child in a place that wasn't mine. Yeah, John, I said, tapping my fake name tag. You're Annie. That's me, she replied, wiping her hands on a rag. Welcome to the graveyard shift. She tried to smile, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. There was a kindness in her voice. Thou, softness that didn't fit the hard edges of this place. Annie showed me how to work the register, how to restock the shelves, how to clean up spills from the endless stream of customers who wandered in half drunk or half asleep. She was patient, never complaining, but I could see the way her shoulders slumped when she thought no one was looking, the way she winced when the cold air hit her bones. As the hours crept by, we talked in the pauses between customers. She told me she'd been at this job for 6 months. It's steady work, she said with a shrug, as if that explained everything. But the way she said it, like she was apologizing to herself, made me wonder what she was hiding. She didn't say much about herself, but I noticed the small things, the way she kept her eyes low, like she'd learned not to expect too much from people. The tiny silver cross on a chain around her neck, glinting when she bent to pick up dropped candy bars. A trucker came in around midnight, slamming the door so hard the shelves rattled. Annie didn't flinch. She smiled, offered him coffee. I realized then she was used to this, the noise, the mess, the loneliness. And when the lull came a pause in the night's rhythm, I asked her, gently, Annie, you look so tired. Do you live far from here? She hesitated. Her fingers drummed the counter. Not really, she said finally. I'm staying close by. It's complicated. She looked away, and I let it go. But in that moment, I saw the truth flicker in her eyes. A quiet sadness, too heavy for words. The night wore on, each hour stretching longer than the last. Annie moved quietly, stocking shelves, brewing fresh coffee. She moved like a ghost present, but almost invisible. I'm careful not to take up too much space. Around 2 in the morning, the store was empty. I was wiping down the counter when I saw her slip behind the register, pulling something out from underneath. It was a thin, battered blanket. She unrolled it carefully, laying it on the sticky tile floor. My heart stopped. She didn't see me watching. She didn't know the cameras weren't really recording. She just curled up, tucking her knees to her chest, head resting on that old backpack like it was a pillow. She looked so small, so tired. And in that moment, I realized this wasn't just a break. This was her only place to sleep. I stepped back, pretending to check the coffee machine. My mind raced images of the warm bed I'd left behind, the quiet house waiting for me in the city. Here I was, pretending to understand what it meant to work the night shift, while Annie was living it in every way that mattered. When she woke, she looked embarrassed. She pulled the blanket tight around her shoulders, eyes darting to see if anyone had noticed. I'm sorry, she said softly. I just needed a few minutes. It's hard to find somewhere safe. I wanted to tell her not to apologize. I wanted to say it wasn't right that she had to sleep on a dirty floor just to stay warm. But the words stuck in my throat, because I was supposed to be John, the new guy, not the boss. So I said nothing, just nodded, and let her believe that was enough. She didn't ask for pity. She didn't ask for help. She just kept working, brewing coffee for strangers who wouldn't even look her in the eye. But I couldn't unsee it. I couldn't unknow it. Somewhere along the way, the line between just a job and someone's whole life had blurred, and I realized that maybe the reports were right about one thing. There were problems here. But they weren't the kind you could fix with a memo or a spreadsheet. The clock ticked past 3 a.m., the hour when even the night seems to hold its breath. I was restocking a row of energy drinks when the door slammed open with a gust of cold wind. A man stumbled in, reeking of cheap whiskey. His hair was wild, eyes bloodshot. He wore a battered leather jacket, and when he spoke, his words were slurred. "Hey," he barked at Annie. "Where's the beer? Don't play dumb, I know you got some." Annie straightened her shoulders. Voice calm but firm. "I'm sorry. Sire, we can't sell alcohol after 2. It's the law. The law." He snorted, swaying on his feet. "You think I care about the law? I want my damn drink." His voice was loud, echoing in the empty store. I could feel the tension spike, like the flicker of the fluorescent lights overhead. Annie didn't flinch. She just shook her head. "I'm sorry," she repeated. "I can't help you." The man's face twisted in anger. He stepped closer, breath sour, eyes locked on Annie like she was the cause of all his problems. "You think you're better than me?" he sneered. "Just 'cause you're standing behind that counter." I took a step forward, but Annie held up a hand, as if to say she could handle it. Her voice was steady, but I saw her knuckles whiten around the rag she was holding. "I don't think I'm better than anyone," she said quietly, "but I won't break the law." For a moment, there was silence. Then the man slammed his hand down on the counter so hard I thought the glass would crack. "Screw the law," he spat. That was enough. I moved in, stepping between them. "Sir," I said, trying to keep my voice calm, "you need to leave." He turned his fury on me. "Who the hell are you?" he snarled. "Just another worker." I lied, "But I'm not going to let you talk to her like that." His lip curled. For a heartbeat, I thought he might swing at me. But then he huffed, spit on the floor, and shoved past me, the door rattling as he stormed out into the night. Annie let out a breath she'd been holding. She didn't look at me right away. Instead, she turned and wiped down the counter where his spit still glistened. "Thank you," she said softly. I didn't know what to say. My heart was pounding, my hands shaking from the adrenaline. But Annie just kept working, cleaning up the mess as if it was just another part of the job. For her, maybe it was. For me, it was the first real crack in the armor of this place. The first sign that the numbers and the charts and the clean corporate emails didn't mean much when someone like Annie was left to face the night alone. The hours crawled on. The store, settling into an uneasy silence. Annie worked, like nothing had happened, wiping down counters, counting bills. Her face, a careful mask. But I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd missed something, that there was more to her story than just a girl sleeping on the floor of a gas station. So when the lull came, I leaned against the coffee machine and asked, softly, "Annie, what did you do before this job?" She paused, her hand stilled on the rag she'd been using to clean. "I was a nurse," she said, almost too quietly to hear. "A nurse." I stared at her, the pieces of the puzzle shifting in my head. She kept her eyes down, as if saying it out loud was too heavy to bear. I worked at County General for 5 years, but they closed the doors. Budget cuts, bankruptcy. I lost my job, and everything else fell apart after that. She swallowed hard. I tried to find another job in healthcare, but no one was hiring without fresh certifications. I didn't have the money to renew them, so I ended up here. My throat tightened. In my world, a resume was just a piece of paper. But here, in this lonely corner of the night, it was the difference between a warm bed and a dirty floor. She looked at me then, her eyes red-rimmed but clear. "I'm not ashamed of working here," she said softly. "I'm just tired of pretending it's enough." I didn't know what to say. I'd come here expecting to find lazy workers or messy storerooms. I hadn't expected to find someone who'd once held lives in her hands, reduced to brewing coffee for strangers who didn't even bother to learn her name. And yet, she still showed up, still worked every shift, every night, still stood her ground when men like that drunk tried to break her down. I wanted to tell her she deserved better, that someone like her shouldn't have to sleep on a tile floor and pour gas station coffee. But she was already turning away, reaching for a fresh pot to brew. I saw the tiny silver cross at her neck catch the light, a small sign of faith that hadn't left her, even when everything else had. In that moment, the weight of it all crashed over me. This wasn't just about her. It was about the quiet ways people's lives unravel when no one's watching. About how easy it is to lose everything except your dignity. The rest of the shift passed in a blur. I watched Annie in the soft glow of the flickering neon sign, moving with a quiet grace that belied her exhaustion. Every time she smiled at a customer, I wondered how much it cost her, how much she had to push down just to keep going. As dawn crept in, I knew I couldn't keep pretending. The weight of what I'd seen was too much to carry in silence. When the store was empty again, I pulled off my name tag. "Annie," I said, my voice low. "I need to tell you something." She looked up, surprise flickering in her tired eyes. "I'm not really John," I said. "My name is Jonathan Miller. I'm the CEO of these stores." The rag in her hand froze. For a moment, neither of us spoke. "I came here tonight because I wanted to see what was really going on," I continued. "Not just the numbers on a spreadsheet, but the people behind them." She didn't move, but her face told me everything. The shock, the confusion, the small flicker of something like hope. "I'm sorry," I said. "I didn't mean to deceive you. I needed to understand." Annie blinked hard, then let out a breath that sounded like it had been trapped for years. "So you saw me sleeping under the counter," she said quietly. I nodded. "I did." She pressed her lips together, her shoulders stiff. "I don't want your pity," she said. "I don't want a handout." "I know," I said quickly. "I'm not here to offer charity, but I can't unsee what I saw tonight. I can't pretend it's not happening." The words hung in the air between us, simple but heavy. "I want to help," I said finally. "Not because I'm your boss, because it's the right thing to do." For a long moment, Annie didn't speak. Then she looked at me, her eyes wet but resolute. "I've been on my own a long time," she said. "I don't know how to let someone help. I don't know how to fix everything. I admit it, but I know where to start." And in that quiet dawn light, it felt like maybe Just maybe. We'd both taken a step out of the shadows. The next few hours passed in a quiet understanding between us. No more pretending. No more masks. Just two people in the soft light of dawn, trying to figure out what came next. When my shift ended, I stayed behind. Annie was counting out the till. Her movements practiced. Her face focused. I could see the weight of her life in every careful gesture. I don't want to just walk away, I said gently. I meant it. I want to help. Annie hesitated, then finally nodded. I don't want money. She said softly, I don't want favors. I just want a chance to get back what I lost. I nodded. I understand. I did some checking. There's a community program in town. They help people retrain at their nursing certifications back, if they've lapsed. They have scholarships for people who can't afford the fees. Her eyes widened. I didn't know that existed. Most people don't. I said, but I can get you a meeting with them. I can't promise it'll be easy, but it's a start. She stood very still, then gave a small, shaky smile. That's more than enough. I also found a short-term rental nearby, nothing fancy. Just a small room above a diner. It's not a permanent solution, I said carefully, but it'll be warm and safe. Annie's shoulders slumped as if a weight she'd been carrying forever had been lifted. Tears welled in her eyes, but she blinked them back. You don't have to, she whispered. I know, I said, but I want to. We left the store together as the sun rose, washing the cracked asphalt in gold. Annie paused, looking back at the building that had been both her shelter and her prison. I'll still work here for now, she said. I don't want special treatment. I just want to earn it. You will, I said. You already have. And as we stood there in the quiet morning, I knew this wasn't about charity or corporate goodwill. It was about a human connection, about seeing someone for who they were, not just what their job was. It wasn't everything, but it was a beginning. A few weeks later, I found myself back at that same gas station. The night was clear and cold. The neon sign buzzing like an old friend, greeting me in the dark. But Annie wasn't there. Instead, a new face worked the counter, offering me a polite nod as I walked in. I bought a coffee, more for the comfort of the ritual than the taste. I asked the new clerk, casually, is Annie around tonight? He shook his head. She doesn't work here anymore. Took a new job at the clinic across town. Heard she's doing well. I felt a slow warmth spread through my chest. I thanked him and stepped outside, the cup of coffee warm in my hands against the chill. Under the glow of the parking lot lights, I found a folded piece of paper tucked into the crack of the Dora note, scrawled in Annie's neat handwriting. Mr. Miller. I wanted to thank you for seeing me that night, not as another worker, but as a person. I started the program last week, and I'm back in scrubs again. Even if it's only part-time at the clinic, I'm not sure where this road will lead me, but I'm not afraid to find out anymore. You gave me back more than a job. You gave me a reason to hope. I'll always remember the night you showed me kindness when no one else was watching. Annie. I folded the note carefully and slipped it into my pocket. I stood there for a moment, the cold air biting my cheeks, feeling both lighter and heavier at the same time. Annie's journey wasn't over, neither was mine. But that night, I realized something I'd always known in theory, but never truly felt until then. It's not the titles we wear or the profits we chase that define us. It's the small moments of decency, the quiet ways we lift each other up when no one else sees. I started this journey thinking I was coming to fix a store, but I left knowing I'd found something much more important. A reminder that even in the quietest corners of America's long nights, there are still people holding on to hope and to each other.